Good evening, everybody. October 6, 2021. Let's take a look at Bitcoin as I projected this morning. I expected the day to pretty much stay green and potentially make an attempt at a new high, which it did right there, just a nominal high there. We still have potential for this to extend even a little bit further, and if we do, these are going to keep moving up with that until we finally do have a top in place, and with that, so too will the support in 4 move up. So I'm just going to move this up slightly, which moves this up slightly into this region here for 4. Okay, so 49.5 to 52.2 is at this point the support for 4, and the bad news is below this 0.5 at 47.7. So we really should see, if this is the top, then we'll see should see a move down at a minimum to 52.2, potentially a little bit lower, before we start pressing upwards. I did say it was going to be more difficult to find this target for 5, because I really like, on the higher time frame, again, this fib right here is the 618 fib, which is a little difficult to see because it's covered up by this yellow fib as well, but I would really like for this whole move to top out right about that 618, because it'll make our parameters very clear then for the rest of the move, to 100K or more. However, this yellow fib, this yellow 3 getting extended as much as it has, puts us up even higher, potentially around here to 60 to 62 at this point. And if this continues higher, as it could, then all of this keeps moving up, support keeps moving up, and this target for the 5th keeps moving up. So the difficulty there, let me just switch over to the daily chart here real quick. Okay, so on the daily, I think it's pretty clear that we've got this 1 and 2 in place. It's really quite beautiful, and we're working on the first wave now of the 3rd wave up, which should take us somewhere up here. Okay, and ideally what that looks like is you go to the 618. That's why I keep saying I want to see it end at the 618 and then come down to the 382, and we can let this indicator reset. The RSI can reset as we come down in that little micro 2 before we get a very strong push up in the 3 of 3. So if it gets to, the problem is if it gets all the way to this 764 instead of topping out of the 618, yes, it could still be a 1, it could be an extended 1, and the 2 could come down and hold at that 0.5 fib instead. It's possible, and it would likely then extend this 3rd up a little bit higher, which is certainly possible, but it does get a little bit fishier, just because at like best case scenario, you normally only get this 618 in a best case scenario. And so extending upwards into the 764, or even worse, extending all the way to the 10 extension, it then begins to look more like an A, B, C pattern rather than an impulsive pattern, right? We really don't want to see this wave here that's starting off our move. We don't want to see it equal to this first wave here, because if that this wave equals this wave, like I said, it turns more into an ABC, which is not ideal. Now, that being said, I think because we are very likely pushing up, obviously, in a bull market, the end of the bull market here, and this is the end of that bull market because we're working on this 5 here. If this happened, what I would expect is potentially just some very volatile action, right, where we're actually going to get an overlap with 1. So instead of an impulse up, I would then expect a diagonal move up instead. And so we would get 1 here, 2 here, 3 would press up here, 4 would come down and overlap. So we can get this very, very, very choppy motion upwards in an ending diagonal for this final wave. And it's fine as far as our long-term buys go. You know, we really shouldn't go below this 42.7 is my average, right? So I accumulated all in this region here, and then I stopped out at 50.8 up here, right? And then I rebought at 42.7, so that was an excellent move right there. We shouldn't come back down there. And so, you know, my plan doesn't really change. I'm still just going to hold on to those longs, those buys that I have here, because best case scenario, we do an impulse up. Worst case scenario, I think we do an ending diagonal up. But it is going to be quite painful, because in this scenario, we can go 72 and then come all the way back down to 50, you know, 48.50 or even lower. And then we go up to 100, and then we come back down to 60. Like, it can be extremely, extremely choppy. And it's not what I expect of Bitcoin, to be perfectly honest. I don't expect that to happen. And the reason is, this being the final leg of this bull market, every bull market that Bitcoin has ever had before, we have seen just a massive blow off top, and then a rejection and a fall, right? So I'm expecting something more along those lines, and the impulsive move gives us that potential a lot better. So that's why I'm just a little bit worried about this low time frame just extending too much. And I'm trying to figure out if there's a way that we can call this third, let me see, hang on. If we can call, instead of calling this the third, can that be the fifth? I don't really see a great way to do that. Like, if this extended all the way to here, it's slightly possible, I suppose, that we have 1, 2, there was the end of our third, 4 and 5 would end like here. I don't like this. I think this is much more indicative of an extended third wave. Let me see what the fib extensions say. I think I took them off just to kind of clarify my thinking here. This is a little bit more academic than maybe you guys really want, but it is possible though. I mean, this hit on this red fib, right? So we did a fib extension 1 to 2 here. This hit in that B wave, it hit the 1382, which is the minimum required for a third. So there is a very small possibility that instead of this being an extended third, maybe we are just extending the fifth right now. That's possible. And if we get all the way to the 618, all the way up here, then maybe that is the most likely scenario. Again, doesn't really matter too much for the long term here. But it does, you know, just kind of, we need to figure that out basically to move forward from here. But regardless, I have this box right here as my support at the moment for a potential move down in 4, sorry. So 4 here, and then looking to move 5 up in that region there, or maybe just to here. Anyway, so first possibility is that this comes down, right, holds in this region, and then comes up here and tests this 618, right? Second possibility is it comes down and then moves up and tests this higher region at the 764. Third possibility is that this 5 is already complete, okay? And what will happen if that's true is we will still come down, we may just go up first. We'll go up to the 618 first and then come down to test 50K. And then from there, instead of topping out here, we will see this push through. We will see this extend upwards and very likely take us all the way up to about 83 with minimal resistance along the way. You know, there will be, of course, waves within it, right? But we shouldn't see too much in the way of resistance. That should be a pretty strong wave up. So those are the bullish scenarios, and like I said, long term doesn't really matter to me because I bought down in this region down here. I've got my 42.7 buys, so I'm just holding on to those. Shorter term, obviously, if you're a shorter term trader, then that sort of stuff starts mattering a lot more. But regardless, if we go here and here, I'm still going to be looking to buy then, potentially buy more right around here. If we go to here and come down, I'll be looking to buy more here. So again, we're kind of like in this region. Basically, any place that we push higher from here, if we come back down into this low 50K region, it's a buying opportunity for the next leg up. I think is the best way to put it. And then if we do not come back down, we will come back down to some extent. So even if we go here, we should come back down. So regardless, that's the buying opportunity. And then if we do this and end up breaking through here, then we know we're already in the heart of the third wave. And that's something that we can just then adjust these numbers to fit what the chart is telling us then, and that gives us an idea of where we are a little bit better, and then we'll be able to track that third wave. I know that was a lot of different possibilities there kind of thrown out at you, but main thing to remember basically is that at this point, really anywhere in this low 50K range, if you're not already into Bitcoin, is the place to buy. 47.7 below that region would be bad at this point. You don't want to go below that. So that's a pretty decent place to stop out. And I think that pretty much sums it up. The bear scenario, of course, that we need to keep in mind, I think is significantly less likely at this point. But it is still a possibility that we have an A and all we're doing is working on a B, and that would be the danger if we get just 3 waves up, right? If we got that like that and we top out of the 764, the 10, we can still get those lower lows. So that's why I would really, really, really like to see this clarify down on the low time frame and make sure that we actually do legitimately have 5 waves here, because that takes that possibility off the table pretty much. So yeah, all right, I think that sums everything up that I can say about Bitcoin. So we'll see where the overnight action takes us and go from there. All right, good night everybody.